The Russia spy poisoning case. Boris Johnson has compared President Vladimir Putin's World Cup promotion to Hitler's notorious use of the 1936 Berlin Olympics. British Foreign Secretary has said that in light of 23 British diplomats being expelled from Russia, including the diplomat responsible for the safety of British travellers to Russia for the World Cup, it was important to have a discussion about issuing a travel advisory for that country.
First of all, I think that your characterisation of what is going to happen in Moscow, in the World Cup, or in all the venues, yes, I think the comparison with 1936 is certainly right, and I think it's an emetic prospect, frankly, to think of Putin glorying in this sporting event. I think the Russian threat consists mainly in a state of mind that is to be found in the Kremlin, and it's a revanchist, bitter feeling about the way the Cold War ended and about what happened to the old Soviet Union, and a feeling that Russia is now simply the controller of a much diminished sphere of influence. So the boundaries of Moscow's dominions have been rolled back. And I think Vladimir Putin feels that very keenly, and he wants and he feels that Russia lost out, and so he wants to cause trouble wherever he can.
The Russian Foreign Ministry, meanwhile, has slammed British Foreign Minister for this comparison. A statement released on Twitter said, and I quote, "Johnson is poisoned by hatred for Russia, and this comparison was unacceptable." Let's go straight to our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark, who's joining us live. Good evening, Mandy. How is this playing out in British politics? This war of words between Moscow and London seems to be touching new lows.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be de-escalating at all. And certainly Boris Johnson is not known for holding his tongue. He always seems to go a step further than even the Prime Minister is willing to go. But certainly the Prime Minister hasn't reprimanded him, as she has in the past when he has perhaps taken statements a bit too far. The general public, I spoke to a lot of people today, they aren't really comfortable necessarily with the language, but the attitude that Russia is a threat, that a lot of people aren't happy about what happened on the streets of Salisbury, the poisoning, and many people believe that it was indeed Russian or Russian agents who were behind it. So although his language might be confrontational, it certainly still has a lot of support among the British public, who feel that Russia may be overreaching. When asked if Britain should go to the World Cup, that's an issue that certainly the Secretary Boris Johnson has raised. There was mixed reaction. There's a worry that it could be used for political advantage, and since it's at Russia's doorstep, since they're hosting it, there's a worry that it's going to take on a political dimension. Indeed.
Mandy, last week the British press came out with headlines like "This is the second Cold War," or "This is the precursor perhaps to the Third World War." While one may dismiss it as exaggerated, how far do you think the British government is prepared to take this?
They're willing to take it a lot further than I think even their European counterparts are willing to take it. Certainly there has been a message of support from a lot of European leaders saying they support Britain, but Theresa May is really pushing the agenda to hold Russia to account. And Macron has just taken a step back, really pointing out, and including Juncker, who is like the head of the EU, saying, we need Russia to be a partner. We don't need them to be depicted as the enemy. So we're seeing a lot of the allies in Britain supporting, their anger towards the poisoning, but really not wanting to have a really aggressive stance towards Russia. They feel that they need Russia in the fold and dialogue to continue. So in Britain, there is quite an aggressive stance towards Russia, but we're seeing kind of maybe a stepping away from the allies who want more dialogue on both sides.
Right. Mandy Clark, thanks very much for putting this in perspective for us.